What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, you know, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week, and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time. Welcome back to Coconuts.
Welcome back to the Swim Up Bar Coconuts.
The Swim Up Bar Coconuts. That's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny. Coconuts is funny.
You ever drink at a swim up bar? Have you ever been to a swim up bar during your drinking days?
The only swim up bar I've ever been to, I was sober.
Really? Did you swim up and just have a club soda?
We swam up. I think that's exactly what we did. So when Rashida and I went to Hawaii in 2017 for my mom's birthday, and the resort that we stayed, the hotel that we stayed at, and I didn't even realize it for like the first 3 days, there was this whole other section, this whole other pool. And I was like, what the fuck? Did I waste my time? What was I doing on the beach when there's a swim up bar? But I don't even drink. So but it was just the novelty of it. And so we went up and we swam up. And they're like, what can we get for you? You want a Bahama Mama, a fucking, Maui Wowie or whatever? And or there was the volcano thing or something like that. And I was like, can we just get 2 club sodas with lime, please? And just put it on room, 610 or whatever it was. And
he's like, okay.
And that was it. And then we swam up. We had our club sodas and we swam on. So,
yo, dude.
The only swim up bar I've ever been to was in sobriety. Unfortunately, I missed out.
I was in one in Phoenix when I was still drinking, and I was drinking like bourbon and waters in a swim up bar, like nothing tropical whatsoever. And then I ordered a fucking quesadilla and ate a quesadilla in the pool.
That seems terrible. It seems like a bad idea. Was it good?
No, dude, it was wet. Everything was wet. I was drunk as fuck. Drunk in the middle of the day in like 114 degree weather during Father's Day in Southern Arizona and Phoenix, eating a wet quesadilla sitting on a concrete like a bench, not a bench, a bar stool, because it's like concrete bar stools,
Yeah.
And I think I was still Megan and I were together back then. I mean, we're still together now, but she's just like, "Yo, are you enjoying your quesadilla?" Like that Megan thing, like,
yo,
like your fucking idea is real bad, She's like, "You enjoying your wet quesadilla?"
She's just her funny way of not maybe like judging you, but like, yo, what's up, fucking wet quesadilla?
Absolutely judging me, dude.
But you don't
bourbon and fucking soda water, like in a swim up bar. Yo, let me get a fucking Jim Beam. They're like,
are you sure you don't want some Malibu and pineapple and
right?
But I just imagine, because you got a napkin there, right, for like the greasy, but you just like dip it in the water and wash it off.
Dip in the water, just exactly for all the cheese grease.
Oh my god!
But I definitely not going to the Corona fucking swim up bar. That's awful, dude. Those people.
Yeah. Ugh, it's pretty foul.
I know. Just bring the mood down. Shit. That is foul, though. Hey, if you're out there listening to this, don't go to the swim up bar during a fucking quarantine, you ding dong.
No. I mean, unless you are quarantined in a water park, but then you can't leave. But I don't know.
That
maybe
would be a hell of a movie with Shia LaBeouf.
Quarantined at the water park.
Mm-hmm. Dude.
Yeah. So what's today? Today is the letter X, and X is always a big problem, and it's always like, it's always, what do we always think of? X-ray and xylophone are the only two words that ever come to mind.
Pretty
when I think
much,
X.
dude. Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about something, and we'll kind of fudge it. I'm sure as this show moves on and morphs and evolves and changes, we'll probably be a little less, be a little more lenient with our letters and what we talk about. And I mean, anything we talk about is sober talk. But I wanted to talk about something that happened a few weeks ago. And so X is for expletives and explanations. And for those of you, and extra help, I guess, for those of you who listen to the show, you'll remember a couple of weeks ago we had a sponsor, and it's not important who they are, and don't go looking for it in the back episodes because it's been scrubbed I edited it all out. Because the sponsor dropped us after only 2 weeks. And so this sponsor was an online therapy, counseling website, whatever. And of which they gave me a free trial. They gave us both a free trial, and I've actually just was on the phone with my counselor before this. And the funny thing was, we did it for 2 weeks, and then I got an email from the woman who was very nice and very sweet, and she said, unfortunately, I have some bad news. We're going to go ahead and we're going to drop you. We're not going to sponsor your show for 2 reasons. She said that I mentioned the script in the reading of it, which I thought was like, well, duh, do people just think that I'm out here spitting facts about some online, counseling sessions out of the blue? I mean, of course it's a sponsorship, and of course it's a script, and that's fine. Whatever. It's their rules. It's their sponsorship. They can do what they want. It's their business, right? But the other one was we had gone above the acceptable threshold of expletives. Yeah. And I don't know. I think maybe in one of the promos we did, Jerry was swearing during it, and maybe that was
probably, I
don't know. And I don't want to speak poorly about these people. It's just funny because, and then I wrote her back and I said, you guys got to do what you got to do. Like, I don't think we would want to be in business with somebody who doesn't want to be in business with us. So,
right.
That no hard feelings, moving on. So it was just this funny, weird little thing where we were both, I was excited. I was like, oh, a sponsor. And then Jerry's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, your feelings at first were a little trepidatious in that you didn't want to be shilling for...
Right, yeah.
Like,
welcome. I just felt uncomfortable monetizing the show or monetizing the podcast because I was like, well, I just would feel like being disingenuous if we're trying to sell people something we haven't used, or do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Hey, we know you're going through a hard time. Here's our hard time. Maybe we can relate. Oh, and by the way, fucking Sherry's Berries or whatever, which wasn't the sponsor, but you know what I mean? Like, I just felt at first I did, but then once I did our research and we talked more about it, I was like, yeah, you know what? This is not a bad service. They're providing something helpful. So we just said fuck a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's how people talk. And I mean, again, I'm not going to try. I'm not trying to convince them that our relationship is done. But that's how people talk. That's how both men and women. But in my experience, men. I got on a Zoom call with some old friends yesterday, and the first thing it was fuck, and somebody brought up, like, they were talking about bowel movements, and we did a good 15 minutes on bowel movements, and I was like, oh Jesus, is this what we talk about? And it's like, yeah, sometimes. I mean, not all the time, but it was just, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, I don't know. Do you ever feel like maybe I shouldn't swear as much, or You don't.
I don't think you swear enough.
I don't swear enough. You swear.
And I feel like I hold back a lot on this podcast. Like, you guys are getting the more serene Jerry here. The Jerry that walks out of the office is awful. Awful. You guys are getting serene, fucking nice Jerry. But no, and it's not like we were doing the ad and I was like, yo, I'll get that pussy and butthole slammed, you know, like, call these motherfuckers. They'll fill you right up, you know, saying some gross shit. We were just, I don't know. It is what it is, but I'm not upset about it. More than anything, it's kind of amusing because you and I think have, well, nobody knows this prior to this, but man, we were like way worse just a few years ago, you know? Way worse. I mean, it is what it is. If you're trying to sell a product and you don't want your product to be portrayed in this certain way, then I absolutely respect that. I mean, I get it, you know. I'm also like, maybe you should listen to the podcast first before you hit us up. You know, I mean, I asked, that was one of the initial conversations I had and like I was like, oh like, really, so what do you listen to it, what did you think? Oh yeah, it seems great, it seems like just what we're looking for. And I was like, oh okay. And I didn't want to be like, so which episode was your favorite, you know? Like I didn't want to hassle them. They were interested in being a sponsor and the product seemed sound, you know. And and as far as like therapy goes and stuff like that, it was, I don't know if it was, it's expensive one way or the other to go to talk to a therapist. And so, but there's another thing that I've learned is like given something for free, if you're given something for free, and this is not always the case, but if you have to either, you know, whether you put time or energy or effort, but sometimes when you give money, then you're more inclined to be interested in the outcome. Rather than just being like, oh, here's something for free. And you're like, yeah, whatever, that's worthless. That doesn't have any value because it was just given to me. But if you have to pay for it, you know what I mean? Like if you were to pay for a class versus have a class for free, which would you be more inclined to like show up to? Right, exactly. It has more significance because you feel like there's that exchange going on. Yeah. And, you know, I think that's a little bit different with, say, the program that you and I are in, because obviously they don't expect any money. But I am the one who's required to put in all the work. I am the one who's required to show up, and if I don't show up, then I don't see results. Right. Right. You're not reaping the benefits of using that program. Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that, but I really do think there's value in giving money for services, right? Yeah, there is. Yeah. But I believe there's value in getting money for services. Yes, you know what I mean? Absolutely, like right? Yeah, I mean, so if Sherry's Berries wanted to hit us up, I mean, I'd have to try it. I don't know. Does she just sell berries, or what does she do? What does Sherry? I don't know. We'll do, if she does, we'll do it at the very end of the podcast when we're done talking about the serious shit. We'll just write out on the berries. Yeah. I don't know. You know what? I only know it from Marin, because Marin would be like, Sherry's Berries. You know, like maybe they're edible berry arrangements now with the corn effect. I don't know how well edible berry arrangements are doing. I don't know if that's a hot thing going on right now in the streets when everybody's freaking out that they're gonna fucking die. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought. I mean, I've been buying frozen berries for my smoothie, but yeah, I haven't been like, man, these would be much better if Sherry brought them. I suggested that maybe we hit up Halo Top and get the low-calorie ice cream people on the A's for Alcoholic train, but you got ice cream issues, though. I don't know, man. That's true. I don't need to have... The last case of ice cream that came to my house didn't last as long as it should have. Right. It's just John... I don't even know. Yeah, I don't want to feed your ice cream issues. It's just A's for Alcoholic, brought to you by Bailey's Irish Cream. The fuck? So I've always been down for sponsorship if it's appropriate, and also I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of our listeners. You know, because, yeah, and I don't even know how many listeners we have. I know it's just you and I. Most of the time, I just approach it like you and I talking, and then have to be really aware that there are other people listening out there. You know, and I appreciate them. I mean, of course I appreciate them, because I just wouldn't be going into my wife's office, you know, every Wednesday. To chat. I mean, we did for a little while, but... we did, yeah. So that sounds kind of dismissive. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant, you know. Well, and I also wouldn't want to be like...
So Jerry, I had a little talk with our sponsors, and we need to talk about your language. We need
You
to tone
said
it down.
pussy and butthole during the commercial.
We're only allowed 2 pussies and 7 fucks, and you know,
one
like,
butthole.
and yeah, and so it's like, I just don't think that it's helpful when and most of the time, we're just trying to figure shit out. Like a lot of this stuff, we're not really. I mean, I tell people, we don't have an outline. We come up with a rough idea about what we want to talk about, and we go with it. Some days are. Mm-hmm. I mean, some weeks we have a little more of an idea, and we have a solid train of thought that we go with. But
yeah.
But I wouldn't want it to ever be anything. I don't want to have to censor myself. I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast, right? That rather than it being on NBC. Or, you know,
I would get it if we were doing like research. Like if we're now going to research this subject and then we had notes in an outline. Do you know what I mean? Like that makes more sense than just 2 fucking bros in their 40s shooting the shit about how they used to be fucking a shit show. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And because that's basically what we're doing here. I mean, we're talking about how we used to be shit shows and how we're a different type of shit show now. How about that?
It's true.
I don't want to say I'm no longer a shit show. I'm just a better, more positive.
Yeah, well, it's not a shit show. You've got.
Yeah, you're right. I keep throwing that word out there. But
you've gathered your shit. You still have some of it, but you've gathered it together. You've gotten your shit together. You haven't gotten rid of it.
No, I was gonna say it's less like a shit show now, and it's more like a fart party. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
We're having a fart party up in this elevator.
Oh man, yeah, there's a fart party in the elevator.
Gross.
It is gross.
Was that? I think that was one of our old jokes back in the day. Fart party. Maybe that was something else. I swear though.
That's fun. I've never heard it before, but I think it's hilarious. Welcome to the fart party, ladies.
Welcome to Fart Party podcast. That's just gonna change from A's from alcoholic to fart party. Like,
but yeah. So and back on this idea of counseling. Right. And so I've been talking to this woman for the last however many weeks it's been. And before this, I was going to see a woman at the clinic here and talk to her. And I really, really, really think there's a lot of value in it. And for me, like therapy is something where I go in and if I find the right person, they're really good at saying, okay, making concrete goals. And then so we made 2 goals, right? And so the first one was work on my sleep hygiene, as we're calling it. So like, because I'm all fucked up and I can't get enough sleep and I deal with all these insomnia issues. And the other one was, deal with the feelings of resentment toward my father. So those are the 2. I had a lot of other ones, but she said, slow down. We can't get to the ball.
That's great though that you bring that up, and not to interject, but it's just like in our earlier podcast when we were talking about about quitting everything all at once while you're drinking, or even like you would call me and say, am I an alcoholic? And I'd be like, listen, man, you would say, I want to figure out the reason why I drink. And I remember saying that to my sister too. I want to figure out why I drink. And after I got sober, realizing this is all the most important things need to come first. It's almost like a prioritizing, which also comes in recovery. It's like if your house is on fire, you don't figure out why it caught on fire. You got to put it out first. You know what I mean? You got to stop the fire. And then from there, you can investigate what caused the fire.
The arson.
Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even for this counselor you're talking to, saying, okay, well, let's prioritize. What are your 2 most pressing things, or the most pressing things that are what's immediate and what can be looked after? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't mop the floor unless you sweep it first. It's like, what's our chain of events?
That's true. I am speaking of mopping. So my boss doesn't want me to mop the floor because he's like, it just mushes everything around. So he's like, go get some of that mop water, and I want you to get the scrub and squeegee. So I scrub and squeegee the floor at the restaurant now.
On your hands and
No. It's like on a stick. It's like on a long stick.
Oh, okay.
It's like just a light scrubbing.
God. Working in the 1800s in London or something?
But yeah, so prioritizing the things that need to be fixed. And so it was great because I, as you know, we'll just sit and talk and ramble on. I could talk for an hour, and her and I only have 30 minutes. And so she's really good at, like, I don't feel like she's cutting me off, but I'm like, oh, she's cutting me off because I'm starting to ramble. And that's a good thing right? So she'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about your sleep, and then I'll get on to something else, and she's like, so back to your sleep. And so that's the thing that's
It's like a gentle herding. It sounds
yes,
like. You're just
it's so true.
herd.
And one of the things I've realized just in the past few weeks is that I have not valued sleep. So if I don't put any value on it, if I don't go like, man, I really need to put those 8 hours above everything else, above sitting in bed and watching YouTube videos about the rise and fall of Arby's or whatever Long John Silver's.
Oh, you watch Company Man?
Yes.
Yes, I watch Company Man as well, thank you. When I fold laundry.
Yeah.
And I did watch the Long John Silver's one.
Which is weird. I have some weird memories of Long John Silver's too, dude.
So do I, dude. So do I.
Talk about a fart party. But yeah, so are those things are not important. So why are you doing them?
Right.
What would you rather do? Because and I'm speaking to myself, that the sun's going to come through the window and it's going to be 7 or 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and you're going to wake up regardless. So do you want to wake up rested or do you want to wake up tired? And so it's just for me about valuing that sleep and really, really. So what are the things that ruin it? Well, watching YouTube in bed, having my phone near me.
Yeah.
So the fucking phone's got to go. The computer's got to go.
Yeah.
So I need to get a better lamp. But so now I'm reading, and that even if I read for like 5 minutes and then that kind of like winds down my brain so that I'm not like blasting it with blue light and then closing my eyes and expecting my brain to shut off. So it's all this sort of weird. It's not weird. It's just, okay, these are the problems and now we can fix them. And then I go and she'll say, how was your week? How was the sleep this week? And I say, well, this, and this day was not so great. And she said, well, I told you, really don't feel bad about your relapses. In case it's not gonna happen overnight, and it's not gonna happen all at once. And I think that can be said. Now, I haven't relapsed with alcohol in a significant way. I mean, I've talked about that a couple of times where I've accidentally, quote unquote, or the one time where it was a knee-jerk
like
reaction.
actually tasted a drink. And
Yeah.
You're like, wait,
Oh
what
shit,
the
I don't do
fuck?
that.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, for me, what I like about it is finding a counselor that has that she can give me tools that I can use and that I can be accountable for, and then I can actually see it and go, oh no, that's fucked up. I shouldn't have done that. I should do this. And the bigger point I wanted to make, and I think that it's, if you look at anybody who's achieved anything great, and I'm just going to use an athlete for, somebody who ran an ultra marathon or did an Ironman or an Olympic athlete, right? None of these people did it on their own. Not one person did it on their own. They had a team of coaches and trainers and nutritionists and managers and, therapists and, drivers and, you know what I mean? Like Kipchoge ran that under 2 hour marathon. He had he had like 7 or 8 dudes in front of him just keeping the wind off of him, right? Pace runners, yeah. So he had a truck that was like pacing him. And so like this idea that, this idea that like, that we don't like to ask for help. Whether you were saying this before, whether it's a gender thing or an American thing or whatever. And so nobody does it alone. Even the best people, even the people who achieve the highest highs, whatever you want to say, the accomplishments, they can't do it on their own.
Right. Well, no, and this is great because what you're breaching is, well, not breaching, but what you're touching on is the whole idea of support, which does tie into the whole idea of asking for help, right? And some of us are just, like, if I think of, like, Michael Jordan, because they had that documentary. I have no interest in basketball, so I didn't watch the documentary because I don't like sports. But to think about him, right, they call him this greatest American athlete, the greatest of all time. He still had to be taught how to play. And even though he had this innate athletic ability that some would even call superhuman to some extent, he still had to learn how to play. He still had to learn how to do all the plays. Do you know what I mean? He still had to learn the discipline, because without having the support and the discipline, all you have is just raw, unbridled talent going everywhere. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we do. We absolutely need these support groups and these support systems, and it's absolutely important that we ask for help. And it is during our conversation when we were talking earlier, because I was talking to my wife about it yesterday, And I was like, I don't know what it is, why I just hate asking for help. Even with the opportunity for me to be able to see a therapist, I didn't really follow that opportunity up. And my excuses are like, well, I've had enough fucking therapy. I've seen so many psychiatrists. I'm done with that, which I'm not. I would totally love to sit down and talk to someone. I just need to make those first steps to get that support. And so it all lands on asking for help. And so I looked at my wife and I'm like, do you think it's like a gender thing? Like these gender roles that we typically play in our culture and in this American culture, you know? Or do you think it's like an American thing? And my wife was like, no, you probably got it from your parents. And I was like, oh yeah, shit. You know, maybe I did to some extent because my mom and dad don't really ask for help a lot. Now, when they went into recovery, they asked for help in that manner because things got so unmanageable that you're like, I can't get this shit together. What the fuck do I do? You know, but then everything else, it seems, it's weird because it does kind of play into gender roles a little bit in American society, or at least our conceived notion of what gender roles are right now.
Sure.
I mean, I understand that it's all the spectrum and we can, me being biologically male, I can encompass really any role I feel, do you know what I mean, works for me or I feel comfortable with. I get that. But our typical American gender role is like this masculine energy where you're fucking pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and do it yourself and figure it all out on your own, and you just don't fucking ask, you know? And whereas I see women reaching out to each other and expressing a lot. And once again, I don't want to make these broad generalizations. This is just what
This is your experience.
My experience, right? I'm not saying that is true for every single one, every woman or every man, you know? I wish I could have more comfort in asking for help, you know? I don't want to burden anybody.
Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. Like I have a cousin who works at here in Eugene, and she like hooked me up with a bunch of pastries, and I loved them. Man, we ran through those pastries in like 2-3 days because like I don't eat sweets ever, right? And she's like, if you need any more, ask me. I'll totally. If you need eggs and milk, ask me. I'll bring you that shit. And like, I took it and was so stoked to have it, but probably won't ask again because I'm like, well, I don't want to bother her. Be like, yo, can you bring me down some more muffins? You know, like, yo, can I get more eggs from you? I need eggs, you know, but she made the offer. So why make the offer? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like this weird burden, like, oh, I don't want to be a pain in your ass.
Well, what if
take advantage of this? You know?
Right. Well, what if she made the offer because it makes her feel useful and she wants to feel useful? And if she can help somebody in her family or close circle, if she can help her cousin and be like, hey, this would make me feel useful because right now I feel, for whatever reason, I don't know her and I don't know her life, but maybe, you know, this idea of like, I feel useless or I wish there was more I could do. And you're like, wait a second, I have eggs and milk and my cousin's got a family and like, maybe I can give my cousin some eggs and milk.
Like I work in a bakery, I have a shitload of eggs and milk, you know?
So,
yeah, or, you know, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's one thing you can look at it as your asking for help is actually, you're helping somebody else too. It's not just about you taking. And maybe I think we in recovery, we get so, there's so much about giving and giving service. And I think it's important, but that we will often overlook our own needs because like, well, I need to, you know, give service. I need to do something for somebody else. And that's how I'll get better. And then we don't ever ask for the things we really need or we really want. Like, why not? And if there's something, maybe there's something you could offer the person at the bakery in exchange. Right. And you could just say, hey, I mean, I don't know what that thing would be, but like, I don't know. Or you know,
right.
Whatever
no, I know
it is.
what you mean. Yeah.
So
to make myself feel more useful, or no, I feel like for an exchange of
because fucking free eggs and milk. My guy Tony at the fruit stand said to me the other day, it was super sweet. And Tony's kind of he looks like a tough dude. He looks like kind of a scary dude, right? He looks a little, you know, and but he's a real sweet guy. And he was telling me, he's like, look, man, if it ever comes down to it and you need to run a line of credit here for food, like you just tell me. Dude. And I was like, I was floored. Like he didn't have to do it. And he always hooks me up. He gave me like $20 off my purchase the other day. And so, you know, I think about like, what can I do for him? Like, I don't need to go and say, hey, what do you need? He calls me whenever there's a delivery. He's like, if you need to make a few extra bucks, it's like $15 to go deliver some groceries. I'm like, yeah. I've only done it once, twice, but But I was thinking like maybe I could. One time I went and got burritos for him and the people that worked there, and I just dropped them off. I didn't say. I was just like, hey, what's up? Here's some carne asada burritos. Thank you guys. And so it's that sort of, I'm not even asking for help. I'm just, again, I guess I'm just being of service, and the help comes. And then just, it's hard to receive it because I think maybe, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you ever struggle with feeling weak or its weakness?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like it's weak is a word for it. I feel like undeserving would be another word too. You know, like I don't really deserve this help because I haven't really helped out back yet, which loops back again to like this exchange, this idea of I don't want to be this charity case, not because of pride, but because somebody else could use it more. Do you know what I mean? But I happen to be the person who's using it right now. So no, I mean, as far as my perception of what is weak and what isn't weak, like as I get older, I get less kind of hung up on that idea of masculinity and what's weak, what's strong. I don't even know if that's what we're touching on with this in general, but I get really less held up on that idea. But see, me growing up, and you could probably relate, like we weren't very masculine dudes growing up anyway.
No.
We were like some sensitive ass Morrissey dudes, you know?
Yes.
Like, so for me, I was never like, oh, I'm weak and I need to be perceived as strong. Like none of that has ever really occurred to me. It's more like I'm doing all right. Like I don't need this. I'll take it because maybe I do need it, but I don't know, man. Like I don't need it, but I'll take it because I want it. And part of me does need it though, because we were out of eggs and milk. So I was like, this is rad. Thank you. Any charity given to me, I'm appreciative of, but there's always that kind of caveat like, damn, dude, like I'm being a pain in someone's got to take from themselves to give to me, you know? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's a really weird thing of accepting help in that sense.
Right.
Now, like you said earlier, if I'm paying for it, I got no problem. Like I do the Instacart thing and I have them deliver the groceries and I always tip them, you know, really well because they're out in the shit. You're out driving around the shit, you know, like I don't want to go to the grocery store. You're doing it for me because that's your risk and reward, you know? And so like, but I also don't feel entitled. I don't think either of us have been very entitled people in that sense. That if we pay for something, we're like lord a power trip over people. But,
yeah,
you know what I mean. Yes, I love the little clap. Like Garcon, bring me my escargots. You know, but yeah, it's definitely a weird, deep seated thing. You know,
yeah,
it's in there. Man, I should have just hit up my fucking therapist with this shit.
I'm telling you,
I should have taken advantage of it. But,
it's well, and I find that I'm much more comfortable accepting things now. I'm always very gracious, and then so I always look for for spontaneous opportunities to be generous as well. And you know, even in small things, like it's not about like giving a lot of money or giving your time is even better than anything else. And so the woman who does my taxes, I say that because if I say my accountant, it just sounds a little too important, you know.
Yeah.
But like she is an accountant, but all she does is do my taxes. Like it's just, and I end up owing her more money than I fucking. Anyhow, so she texted me the other day, and she knows me from when I was a bartender. And she was asking me about triple sec, and she's got this favorite brand and blah blah blah, and like I owe her money right now because I never paid her for the taxes, and now I'm not looking to like get away with not paying her, but she was like, "Don't worry about it," and I thought, well, maybe I could give her like a partial payment, but also as a gift, get this bottle of triple sec and give it to her, and just kind of say like, "Hey, you know, here's a partial payment, I'll pay you the rest. Here's the triple sec," and you know, and then. And I want to do that because I want to do that, not because I'm thinking, oh, it'll garner me some favor. Maybe she'll take a fucking $12 bottle of liquor and
no,
not
I know what you mean. It's not a manipulative action. It's a thoughtful action. It's not manipulative. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm always looking for like little things like that, and who can I help? And oh, if I'm at work and they're like, yeah, you want some food? And hey, we'll make you a pizza. And I was like, you know what, why don't you make me one that I wouldn't eat, and I'll bring it to the guys at the fruit stand, or just little shit like that. And so it kind of like throw a little bit out there so that anytime it comes around my way, I'm like, oh gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And again, I think it's just the other person might be feeling useless and want to feel useful, and it might give them a sense of power and a sense of purpose.
You're a thoughtful person.
Well,
you are. Like, even when we deal with each other, like on Venmo or whatever, and you have to send me over something, you're always like, hope you're having a good day. Or like, you'll attach a little note to the Venmo thing where I'm always just like, quick. I'm all, here's your shit. What do you want? You know, like, it's just your thought. You think a lot about people. And that's a really good quality to have. And it is selfless. I mean, I'm not trying to build you up here or blow hot air up your butthole. But
I think, is that above the acceptable threshold?
That's our one butthole. But yeah, it's just, I think you derive pleasure from helping people out. And I think you have realized that within your sobriety. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's like this thing you figured out. You know what I was thinking about? Now let's talk more about your sleep, John.
Yes.
But I was thinking about this with your sleep earlier, but we'll go back to this other thing, is that I have insomnia problems as well. And I started treating sleep, I started prepping for going to sleep like the way I would prep if I were going to run or work out. So it all became part of the routine. Like, if I'm going to run, I stretch. I always stretch. I stretch for at least 15 minutes before I run. Same with working out. Like, if I'm going to lift weights, I always stretch. I have a routine I go through. I get my heart rate up. I do little laps around the living room and jumping jacks and stuff. So at night, I would think the same thing. Like, this sleep is going to be a really long workout, so I have to, like, prep for it. So, yeah, I would, like, wouldn't read the phone. I would, like, plug in the phone in the other room. I have a, what do you call it, a diffuser, an oil diffuser, and I put this, like, nighttime mix in it, and it let it diffuse to the room, and for some reason that just really helps out. But I found that if I prepped before I went to bed, it helped me out a lot, and did those routines and just kind of turned going to bed into a routine. I fell asleep a lot faster and stayed asleep for a lot longer. And I'm not trying to give you advice. This is just my approach to it, you know.
Dude, I'm open for any and all,
because it was like working out. It was like, okay, like, but see, my whole day is comprised of fucking routines. Like, that's all I do all day is just routines. It's really weird. Tasks. I was telling May, I got upset this morning because I couldn't finish my tasks. And I'm like, Megan, I get upset when I can't do my tasks.
It's like, well, settle down. Some days you're not going to be able to do them. And some days the routine gets interrupted.
Yeah, exactly. I trying to lift weights and do my tasks, but Olive is in the living room doing her Zoom meeting for school. She can't log on. Her iPad's being fucky. So I have to keep stopping to help her. And then Megan goes to help her. And then I get frustrated because now I'm like, an additional task has been added to the task I have to do. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go run. So then I just put my shoes on. I didn't even stretch. I just ran out the door. I was like, I'm just going to do a mile real quick. I make it down a block and realize everyone in the fucking world is out right now. Like, the sidewalks are just full of people. It's like, it looks like a monster truck rally out there because it's a nice day in Oregon. As a matter of fact, I hit like the intersection right in about less than a quarter mile from my house. I hit the intersection and looked around, and there were just crowds on each corner of the intersection. And through my like gator, I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? And just ran back home. I was like, I'm not running through this goddamn gauntlet, you know? I ended up eventually getting to do what I had to do, but like, my routine got fucked up, you know? And so I don't know my point to that. I guess my point is everything is done by routine for me now, especially in recovery. Like, everything is like a set of routines, and when they get fucked up, it fucks me up. So
how did you feel better at the end of that?
I compromised. I fucking compromised. I had to compromise. I have to accept that I cannot do it the way I want to do it right now, so I have to compromise it with the situation that's happening. So I came in, I apologized to everybody. I was like, listen, I got a little worked up. I ran out the door. I'm sorry. I looked at Olive. I'm like, I didn't mean to snap at you or be stern with you. Sometimes I'm not great at expressing myself, and I fucked that up. I'm going to try really hard not to do that in the future. I just shouldn't do that at all. And then I just lifted weights. I compromised. I was like, I just have to lift weights in this environment. Like, with her trying to figure her shit out. But
I just picture you like lifting dumbbells like behind her Zoom class, like she's trying to learn with the teacher.
That's why I make her go in the kitchen, because she's in the living room and it's her shirtless dad behind her being like, you know, like doing fucking planks, making the plank noises. You ever do a long plank and you're just like, yeah, so I'm always like, will you go in the kitchen so that these kids don't see your shirtless 44-year-old dad just fucking taking it to the limit, you know, like in the background.
Yeah,
with all these tattoos, dude, like looking like a prison movie. Just
so let me ask you this about the compromise, because
Yeah.
there are certain things, and this is another thing that my therapist was talking about, is having one or two things that become foundational in your day, and things that you do not compromise on. Mm-hmm. And she said, if some people will make sleep that. They'll go like, I get my 8 hours no matter what. Whenever I go to bed, I get 8 hours. If I go to bed at 10, I wake up at 6. If I go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, I sleep until noon, or whatever it is. Like, that stuff doesn't work for everybody. But one of the things that has become non-negotiable has been doing 25 sit-ups. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, although when I started doing them, it's a fucking lot of sit-ups. But I was like, do 25 sit-ups every single day. And we started this in March, Rashida and I. And the other day, I disrupted my routine in the morning. I didn't do my stretches. I didn't go running. I was kind of doing whatever else. And then I went off to work, and I came home, and I was sitting there eating some fucking, I don't know what it was, potatoes or something like that. And then I realized, shit, I didn't do my 25 sit-ups. And I was like, well, either you can go do them now with a stomach full of food, or you can ruin the last 2.5 months. And I was like, well, I guess it really will only take me 30 seconds to do 25 sit-ups, right? Maybe 45 seconds. It's not fun, especially after you've eaten. But
no, it sucks. Yeah.
But I did it, and so I was like, okay, there's something that I don't let myself down about. And kind of finding those things. Are there any things that you now do not compromise that are like, I get this done no matter what? I mean,
the workout that was getting compromised. Yeah. It is. It's 5 days a week I work out for at least an hour a day. It's just what especially in quarantine, I have more time to do that.
Right.
Well, even when Olive was in school, I had totally time to do it because Megan and Olive were at the school. So I could just work out while they were gone and then go to work. That was the one thing I didn't compromise, and I had to today. I just had to. I had no choice. I didn't not work out. I just had to work out at a later time than I'm used to. I needed the task done. I start at 9. I'm done by 10. That's the task. And then at 10, I feed the animals. I make everybody breakfast. There's like a whole set of routines I have throughout my day. So I had to scoot everything forward an hour, which fucks me off. It like fucking fucks with me. But yeah, that is my one thing is like, let me work out, just let me work out because I feel better during the day. If I've being active, I feel better. So I was like, well, I'll just run then. Today will just be a run day. But then, I got out there and like I said, it was like coconuts. It's like the swim up bar out there in the street.
The swim up bar coconuts. It was packed.
I'm like, why the fuck are none of you social distancing? You're walking in a crowd 8 people deep. Like, what the fuck, y'all? Like, do you really think 8 motherfuckers live in your house? No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. It's funny, those things that we melt down about. But I mean,
it's so silly, man. It really is on my end. I feel embarrassed, actually. And I apologize, everybody. I apologize a lot, for my actions. I try to be accountable, but yeah.
And I've loosened some restrictions on my part as far as, when I used to be really hardcore about like, oh God, if I don't go out, if I don't get exercise today, if something doesn't happen, then everything's going to be ruined and I'm going to be I'm going to be fat forever. And I'm going to hate myself.
What I said. That's so funny. That's exactly what I said to my wife this morning. That's so funny.
And then the other day when I was like, I'm just going to rest, and I went outside and I put my yoga mat in the sun and I laid there.
I know, what a great day, man. You look like you're having a blast. I was like, fucking John, I got to be in my garage painting commission art.
God
John's
damn it.
out there enjoying his life.
I mean, that was only 15 seconds of my actual life. But, yeah, it's nice, right? It always looks good on social media, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah.
But it was like, okay, so this is important too. So this has value too. So this thing that I'm doing right now, call it active recovery, we always dismiss it as if we're not doing something, as if we're not allowing our body to rest. When you think about like building your muscles up, when you're like lifting weights, your muscles actually tear, and that's what's sore, and then they build back up or something like that. I don't know the exact science. I'm not a physiologist.
You're not a muscle doctor? I'm not a muscle doctor.
No, but I'm not a sports therapist, but I'm not a muscle doctor. So like, oh, you have to rest it, right? And then it builds. And so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's important too. And
Every
then
other
once I started to give that some value, I didn't feel like I was shirking other responsibilities. And that was really helpful to see value in things where before I just felt like I was being a lazy piece of shit because I didn't run, or I didn't get this done,
Right.
or I would panic because I didn't have our Instagram page up to date every single week. Like that was the most important thing in the world.
Right.
So,
Isn't this what Mishka was talking about too, about passive and active recovery?
yeah.
Yeah, which totally applies, not only to working out, of course, in the terms he was using was towards recovery from alcohol, It's the same thing, right? It's being forgiving on you. You got to forgive yourself. I have to forgive myself as much as I have to ask my family to forgive me for fucking wilding out, Yeah, it's just it's a lot in it, right? So like I think the big cores of what we're talking about today is like being able to ask for help, seeking help if you need help, and then being able to be like easy on yourself, like this shit is hard. It's a fucking journey, man. And life in general is not easy. Even for people who make it seem easy, like you said, oh, it was only 15 seconds in the sun. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what we portray and what we experience are two different things.
Sure.
Because I could see you out in the sun on a yoga mat and be like, I'm going to try that, and go out there and literally be out there for a minute. And I'm like, it's too hot. And then go back inside. Because, I'm not going to lay in the direct sunlight in a yoga mat and be like, this sucks. This is too hot. John made it look way too good.
I did it for a couple of minutes, but like I had set it up so that my eyes were like blocked by the sun, and anyhow, whatever it was. But yeah,
but what's being portrayed is like people. I guess what I'm saying is like there will always be difficulties, regardless of whether you're drinking or not. There will always be fucking difficulties. This is how you cope with them, deal with them, adapt to them, compromise with them, accept them,
and everybody
put them
has
aside and deal with them later. You know?
And you were mentioning this earlier too about how we don't want to share our feelings, and we don't want to talk about what's going on because it's personal, because it's private, maybe because we think people are going to make fun of us, or people are going to judge us in some way, right? One way or the other. And
right.
and that you were saying that you had actually opened up to somebody who you would have never opened up to, and
right.
the reaction was not what you expected.
Not at all. And that person like humanized themselves to me in a way that I didn't think was possible like the week before, And so I did gain perspective for it. So that is a great example of being able to open up about something, something, the way I'm feeling about something, and people being really receptive to it, instead of being like, oh, you're just a fucking weak or whatever, that word we were using, and having someone come back at you and be like, look, man, I'm dealing with stuff as well, so I get it, I get it. But isn't that like the common thread and core of what we're doing is like, not what we're doing, but yeah, what you and I do is like relatability, like not what we're expressing, but as far as our recovery is concerned, the most important thing for me in recovery has been able to relate to other people.
Sure.
I couldn't relate when I was drinking because I could, but couldn't. It was like it was a different type of relating. Do you know what I mean? Like I was just looking for the other person who drank as much as I did, so I'd feel comfortable, right? Now that I'm in recovery, I'm looking for the other person who used to drink as much as I did, so I could feel comfortable, or feel like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Nobody wants to be, truly wants to be 100% alone. I don't think.
No, not for long.
There might be, they're the outliers, but I think as humans, we're like herd. We want to be around common people and common things and things that relatable experience, Well, so it was good to be related, to feel related to.
Well, yeah, because the thing I think when I hear that story, what I hear is not only are you being more vulnerable than you would normally, because in that moment you were desperate for somebody to understand why you were behaving in a certain way. So in that way, you were asking, the help you were asking for was understanding. You're saying, hey, I need you to understand me. This is why I behave this way, not because of what you think or what you perceive. I'm just an obtuse, aloof asshole who hates you.
Right. I'm just trying to be hard. I'm trying to make it hard on everybody because that's my jam. Do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Yeah, I was like, here's the human reason behind why I make it hard on people sometimes.
And then someone's like, oh, shit.
here's why I make it hard on people sometimes, Jerry. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, well this explains a lot of shit. And now you have shifted in perspective. My perspective has shifted. You've gone from being this obstacle I have to overcome to being like almost like someone that I'm a confidant, not confident, but you know what I mean? Somebody I'm working along with, like a colleague, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was very interesting. I learned some lessons. I've been learning some lessons in this quar, Johnny.
I know. I think you more than anybody else I know has come
Baking
through.
Cookies, running down to coconuts.
Oh, the swim up bar. But yeah, man, I would just say that, like, in that example that you gave, the fear that the reward of asking for help, the reward of sharing, the reward of vulnerability greatly outweighed the fear that you had in the past to share anything with this person or these types of people, right?
Right.
And it was probably a relief.
It was, yeah. It absolutely was.
Oh my God. And I don't know you. I am sure that your relationship with this person, I don't know how it'll go in the future, and I'm sure
it's long and complex.
But I imagine that there will still be resentments and frustrations and stuff like that, but you may not be so
absolutely
quick to judge. You know what I mean? When you're like, you may not be so quick to judge or to snap or to. Well, I mean, maybe you will too at certain things, but like, you know, when you look at, like they always tell us in the book, right? These people are sick. We have to look at them as sick people, and if we look at them as sick people, we can't be angry at them because they are sick.
Right.
It doesn't.
Which is exactly what my sponsor told me when I did my 4-step on this person like 3 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I think what it does is it does shift that perspective where I go, oh, this person is going through pain, or these people are going through pain. Even when I watch the news and I'm like, why aren't we social distancing? Why are you acting out so much? What the fuck? Like, we're just all going to get sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then my wife looked at me and they all have oppositional defiance, Jerry. And I was like, oh shit. So my wife works with oppositional defiance kids at the school. And these are kids who are always like, no, fuck you, no. Like all day, these kids tell my wife, fuck you out, Miss Allie Megan, fuck you, you know, no. She'll be like, come on, we gotta do that. No. And it's this oppositional defiance, it's this personality defect. It's a character defect in their personality where they just are oppositional constantly. And so when you see adults doing this, you're like, oh, shit, you never got treated for that character defect, so you're just still living within it. Like, you're being told by what you believe to be a position of authority to do something, and you feel oppositional towards it, you know? But that humanizes me to them, because I'm like, these people aren't intent on hurting me or mine. I mean, some of them aren't, you know? Maybe some of them are, because they've perceived me in a different way. I'm like, oh, they just have this thing, this thing that is like quote unquote sick that needs to, you know what I mean? That they need to work through. It's just unfortunate that them needing to work through it makes other people sick, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So in a sense, they are doing the best that they can.
They're working with the best that they can work with, and they found another big group of people who will fucking co-sign on what they're working with.
Right.
You know, it's just like this person. You know, it's just like the people I know in my life who are adults that have this oppositional defiance, that I see it now, you know, and here I am diagnosing motherfuckers, but like I see these people and I'm like, oh, your whole motivation is just to push against what you feel like is being pushed upon you. Like if something is thrust upon you by someone in a position higher than you, you feel like, oh, you have authority over me now and I don't accept that. Whereas it's not. Do you know what I'm saying? It's those roles aren't there. They're just perceived roles because of whatever's going on in their mind, you know? I mean, I have it a little bit.
Sure.
But I also fall in line because I was raised by Leanne, so, you know.
With the chongla.
Leanne's a scary lady. Fly swatter.
Oh, the fly swatter.
Not very many chanclas. It was always the fly swatter. But, like, so for me, I was kind of raised the opposite of that oppositional defiance. It was kind of like, get in line. Yeah.
All the kids had fly swatters on the chimney instead of stockings for Christmas.
Right. This is how hard you got hit. Merry Christmas. We're only going to hit you twice.
Not that there's any fireplaces in Arizona. Not too many, at least.
I mean, we had one in one house. You know, the funny part is, like, I talk about my mom on the flight. I swear to God, my dad, like, in a week or two, will call me and be like, you know, I was never around, and that's why your mom was working with the best she had. And then I always feel bad. Like, I'm not trying to portray my mom in a negative light. It's just that's part of my reality. It was part of my childhood. Was like I get spanked with a fly swatter when I was wilding out, you know. Mm-hmm. But my dad, I remember my dad once fucking popping off on us in the car because we were laughing about it, Faith and I, or Joel and I, and my dad's like, you know, I was drunk and never around, and your mom was working with the best she could do with 4 fucking kids, and we were like, Dad, we're not trying to make anybody feel bad. Like, we think it's funny that my mom yelled at us in Spanish and chased us with a fly swatter. Like, that shit's hilarious.
So your reality of the situation was something that you were looking back, not fondly, but laughing about, and he was still feeling, he was still like, I didn't want to hurt you. I'm sorry, you know, probably still felt bad on some level, but it's like, it's just a different perspective of the same.
Different perspective, right? So
action.
Joel and I are laughing with this shared experience of my mother fucking losing her shit in Spanish, chasing us. And my dad's listening to this and feeling like we're accusing my mom of beating us. And I'm like, dude, she didn't abuse us. She just screamed at us in Spanish and chased us with a fly swatter. Like, that is like some minor league kid slapping or whatever. I can't think of the right word for it. But that is like
discipline.
In the grand scheme of things, that is nothing. That was what was appropriate in that time. I don't feel any trauma from it. Yeah. Although I did just blame my oppositional defiance on it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't have that.
Working with the best you got. And I think that, you know, the thing in recovery for me has been the eye-opening thing of like, oh, okay, that's the best I had then. This is the best I have right now. So if this is the best that I have, then there's absolutely no reason to judge myself for not living up to some other standard. It doesn't mean I don't want to get better. It doesn't mean I don't want to find other tools. It doesn't mean that I don't want to push myself, but I also don't need to like be shitty and mean to myself and judge myself and hate myself. Like
there we go. Yeah. That's exactly what we're talking about. Like that aspect of forgiveness. Like you just gotta forgive yourself sometimes. You're working with what you got. We're all working with what we got. You and I talk to each other once a week to figure out what we're working with. Do you know what I mean? And like kind of share ideas. Okay, here's what I'm working with. What are you working with? Oh, okay. It's like we're like 2 fucking monkeys around a termite mound. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to get the termites out. Yeah, and you just give me the thinner blade of grass. You're like, poke this one in there. This will get you more termites. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay,
oh, nice.
You know, and then, you know, well, here's my technique for pulling them off without getting bitten. You know, it's like we're just honestly poking at the termite mound, just trying to figure out what we can get out of it.
Poking at the termite mound.
That's my metaphor. The termite mound is life.
We're
the monkeys.
That's going to be Jerry's Friday night meeting, poking at the termite mound.
Poking at the termite mound. Check out my AA Zoom meeting. I haven't been to a Zoom meeting in a while. It's been a few weeks. I'll probably make one tomorrow, maybe. Well, I haven't been in like a month.
I was going to talk to you about this, and it's a couple weeks away. And you know, I don't know why I'm whispering like nobody's listening.
Right.
But I was thinking we should just have a Zoom meeting, have everybody come in, and just open one up, and Z is for Zoom, and just see what. It's to see how unruly
that would be really fucking interesting. I don't know how many people you can get into a Zoom room, but that would be pretty interesting. Like, hey, if you want to, but then I also don't want to get Zoom bombed. But somebody in recovery, and it's just like a screen of dick and balls, and we're just trying to be all serious.
I think, can I remove them from the Zoom room?
I would imagine they figured that out at this point. Yeah. Considering that Zoom bombing has been on the news, they're like, Zoom has probably been like, oh, we need to figure this shit out.
Well, I'll look into it.
Dick and balls, yeah. Look into it. It would be. I only laughed because I thought of the idea. How funny that would be. Interesting. Hopefully, my iPad will be fixed at that point.
Right. Well,
it's 2 weeks away.
2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Cool. So yeah, ask for help, Jerry. I need help.
All right.
Don't feel
fine.
That's the opposite. What is it? Oppositional defiance to asking for help.
Look it up. ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. No, that I don't. I think those poor kids, man. But yeah, I think they need help. They obviously do because my wife was helping them at the school. That was her job. She ran the. It's been so long I can't remember what the name of the program was, but she ran it.
Well, and I think that's another good thing. It's like just it helps me to be kind when I know that people are
absolutely
like if I go, oh, they're doing the best with what they got. Like they don't see it the same way.
Always a very helpful consideration. And I think out there, I'm going to do that out there in the world a little more. I'm like, hey, they're working with what they got.
Hey,
work with what you got, Grandma.
And there, you know, that goes the same for me when I have a meltdown or feel frustrated or angry or sad or like whatever it is. It's like, this is all I got right now, dude. I'm really trying fucking hard here, and I don't know what else to do. So there you have it.
You work it, Johnny. You work it.
Work it because you're worth it.
Worth it. But whenever they say work it because you're worth it, I just think of like twerking, like just working that ass.
Working that
ass because I'm worth that ass.
Work it, worth it. Yes, twerk it. Whatever you need to do.
Whatever you got to do.
I haven't seen any twerk. Is twerking still a thing, or was that more like 2018? Is that still on?
I think that was more 2000. I mean, I think people still do it. I never found it personally appealing, but then again, my brain is wired a lot differently than other people's brains. So
right.
Yeah, but yeah, I imagine if you type twerk into YouTube, you'll still find videos from like last week.
I think I'm gonna stick with my Long John Silver's The Rise and Fall.
Yeah, Company Man.
I might go check out the Coconuts video and see what's going on there.
It's just NBC.
Oh, okay.
It's literally NBC talking about people weren't social distancing in like Missouri or something, and they were all in a water park, and the swim up bar, you could see the sign for a second, and it just said Coconuts, and that was the name. And it was under this like really like, yo, like look at this footage of all these fucking ding dongs in a pool, like hundreds of people in a pool getting drunk, and it's like Coconuts, you know. It's just, I don't know, it just made me laugh.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.